Recently, you wrote a commentary about the political status of Myanmar, and in this commentary, you said the power balance built between the military junta and the revolutionary forces are revolutionary forces have a more leverage than the military junta. So, what are the factors you said about the resistant forces are gaining the political leverage and power and balance and is increasing up to the resistant force? What are the factors?
So when the coup happened, the military or the junta had all hard power in its own hands. The coup provoked the mass civic uprising of the people. So that means they didn't have a control over people. They didn't have a legitimacy because the people overwhelmingly rejected the coup and nobody internationally was ready to accept the coup. But when you look in the factors of the hard power, that means military power, financial power, administrative power, basically all powers has been in the hands of the junta. The junta tried with the crackdown to suppress the civil disobedience, but the crackdown just fired back in a sense that the people didn't give up rejection of the junta, but basically resumed the self-defense and started to defend themselves. And that brought us in a situation in which we have been for 2.5 years, which I call negative equilibrium. That means that the junta was not able to defeat the resistance. It was not able to gain the control, but the resistance forces are also not able to topple down the junta. And that was why it has been balanced. It was negative because it was very, very destructive, bringing a lot of suffering and damage to both people of the country, but also economy of the state functioning and so on. Now, with the end of the 2023, we have really jumped on the new level in which the power dynamic has changed in a sense that now, for the first time, junta does not have anymore the upper hand. They are not anymore capable to undertake the offensive operations which aim to gain the control over country, and they switch to the defensive. They now, from now on, the only thing what they are able, they cannot gain the military victory. They are only defending themselves to survive. And for the first time, the resistance gained the level of the strength and capacity that they are able to undertake the offensive operations. So we have now changed the balance that before the junta had the upper hand and is on offensive and resistance and people are defending themselves. Now things have changed and now junta is defending itself and the resistance forces and the people of the Myanmar are capable to intensify the different levels of the pressure. But the Min Aung Hlaing and the SAC has no chances anymore from now on to regain control over the country and to reestablish themselves as the government. They are on the downturn spiral. They are just kind of on the downturn trajectory, and they will go down and down and down, and in one moment they will collapse. This collapse can happen either through the ordinary soldiers simply giving up and not being ready anymore to obey the orders of their commanders, and that it will go like a domino. The other possibility, which is also as probable, is that in one moment we will see the internal coup against the Min Aung Hlaing, so that some other officers will remove him, remove the other officers around Min Aung Hlaing, blame them for everything, and then try to enter into the negotiations with the resistance forces and with the international community. Both things are possible. I don't see the way how Min Aung Hlaing can regain the upper hand and regain the control over country. There is only one possibility how that can happen, but that possibility is not very probable. And that possibility is if the regional actors, Myanmar neighbors, will significantly invest in a junta to survive, if they will significantly come to help Min Aung Hlaing in a way how, for example, the Russia and Iran in one moment came to help Assad survive in a moment when he was almost fallen.
Yes, this is then the point that the regional neighbor, when it comes to the international community, especially Myanmar's regional neighbors, they are always highlighting about the being a first state, being a balkanizations, and they are concerned about the mass migration due to the conflict. So they, and also they are still convincing that the Honda will not collapse. So what do you think? And will the Honda, would that be opportunity for the Honda to survive?
So it's a tricky question in a sense that we don't know, and we cannot know because this is really undecided. So far, from the beginning of the coup until today, nobody was really ready to bet on the junta. So nobody has expected that military can be defeated. So everybody has expected that sooner or later the junta and military will regain the control. And that has been the reason why they have not been ready to support resistance forces and to support the people, because they have calculated, okay, there are uprisings, there is people resistance, but sooner or later junta will regain the control. So they will be the government. We will need to deal with this government. We'll need to have a relations with them for the geopolitical reasons, for the economic reasons, for all other reasons. So let's sit and wait. So basically, for the whole time, everybody in the region and international community as a whole are sitting and waiting for the fire to extinguish by itself. They haven't tried to extinguish the fire. They haven't tried to intervene and to help solve the solution. They are sitting and waiting. Now, everybody understand that military cannot survive, but they are still, as you rightly said, they are still worried that without junta, there is no stability in a country. Without junta, that NUG and ethnic revolutionary organizations do not have a clear political agreement, a clear political alliance which can guarantee that they can control the transition to the new government, transition to the new state organization, and that they can guarantee the stability of the country. So for that reason, now still everybody, particularly neighbors, want to achieve the negotiations between the military and the resistance forces. So I still don't think that anybody in a region is ready to invest on a military alone, because they are too bloody, they are too incompetent, and they are really not the kind of the player which anybody wants to, damage its own reputation by betting on the somebody so bloody and so incompetent as a Min Aung Hlaing. So everybody would like to hide behind the negotiations, as they call it, between all sides. But that is not possible. And what is big task for the NUG and ethnic revolutionary organizations, really to create the joint foreign affairs team and to go to the important capitals around the world and persuade them let's say, that alliance between the NUG and ethnic revolutionary organization is a credible one, it's a confident one, it's a winning one, and they're the one which has a clear plan how they will manage transition process. So we don't need to go around the world to explain to them how big suffering is of the people in Myanmar is. Nobody listens to that. There is so much suffering around the world. International community does not anymore help anybody because you are suffering. It doesn't help to go around and talk about democracy and human rights. Nobody really cares about that. We need to go around and to persuade them that the revolutionary forces, resistance forces are credible future government capable to manage transition.
So when it's come to the credible and alliance between the NUG and the ethnic leaders, so what are the challenges for the time being?
The main challenge, there are many challenges. The main challenge is that there are underlying difference in understanding how future Myanmar should look like. We have a number of the very important, I would say critically important participants in resistance against the junta, and some of them have a confederal vision of the future of the Myanmar. Some other very, very important have an ethnocentric vision of the future federal. And the third group, I would say, have a vision which is not very clear, which is some sort of the asymmetric combination of the holding together Myanmar Federation. So there are underlying political differences. And it's a very, very hard in this particular moment to make a clear agreement which of these ones will be the final institutional build-up of the future Myanmar. So this is a real obstacle. The second obstacle is, key people don't have travel documents. Key people, let's say, cannot move around and cannot talk between themselves. We have a very skeptical audience. Basically, the countries in a region, international communities are very, very skeptical that we are able to keep the country together. So you have an audience which don't really trust you, don't believe you. You have your internal kind of the unclarity. So these are real objective obstacles. What I think that we should recognize these differences, but in spite of that, agree on something what I call very clear transition plan. We might not have the clear understanding now how the future Myanmar will look like, because we need more political discussions about that among the key players. But we can have a clear agreement what the process will look like, how the process will look like. And then when we have a clear agreement how the process will look like, we need to go around, we need to find the people who have a trust of the stakeholders and have a travel documents, and they need to go to talk together with the international policy makers, and they need to have a very, very strong narratives. We don't need to have a political agreement in the hands, but we need to have a strong narratives. We need to have a good talking points.
So the resistance force, they always explain us that they have a federal charter, which is a common ground to become, to come together as sort of a political agreement in visual of a state building. What do you think? Is that enough to persuade the neighboring country?
I think yes and no. Let's say yes and no. If we use the federal charter and then really kind of transform it into the good narratives, it can be enough. At the same time, reality is that not everybody of the key stakeholders has participated in the NUCC process which produced the federal charter. There are a number of the very, very important players who are actively participating in a struggle and a fight against junta, but they have not been the part of that process. And everybody knows that. Arakan Army was not part of that process. North Brothers Alliance was not the part of that process. The Shan has not been the part of that process. So we have, and everybody knows that there are a number of the key players who have not been part of that. Let's say. So I think that the federal charter is a good starting point with a certain limitations. We should basically not be shy away to admit that there are certain unclarities, but still, let's say, we might need to be able to, and I really highlight that, go together. If the NUG alone goes to talk, it's not enough. If the K3C goes to talk with international, it's not enough. They really need to come together and to have really 5, 6 key talking points and keep on repeating them again and again. And combination of the military victories in Myanmar, the ongoing pressure and rejection of the people of the junta, and a good diplomatic offensive can prevent that the other countries will not come to help junta. I still don't think that other countries will come to help the alliance against the junta. Nobody wants to get involved. And we should understand that. They really don't want to get involved. But we don't need that. What we need them not to help junta survive. And for that reason, we really need the diplomatic offensive. I even kind of said it, after very successful 10-20-27 offensive. Now we need the January 24 offensive, meaning, let's say, the beginning of the 2024. We need the joint diplomatic initiative of the key stakeholders.
Anti-junta alliance, among all those political actors, there are differences, I think, there are the differences, and especially when it comes to legitimacy. So, what do you think?
Look, let's say, I think that we are now in a situation in Myanmar that we have something what I call 3 sources of the legitimacy. When the coup happened, we had a real incredible, impressive mass uprising of the people, which in a certain way has been like a big bang, like a huge explosion of the people power. This people power has clearly rejected the legitimacy of the junta, legitimacy of the military as somebody who was trying to be de facto government. And these people uprising gave legitimacy to the institutions which emerged on the waves of the Spring Revolution. That means NUG, NUCC, and CRPH. So the people power gave legitimacy and to these 3 political institutions which emerged on the wave of the Spring Revolution. Expectation in that moment has been by pretty much everybody that international community will recognize NUG, and through recognizing NUG, that international community will in a different ways help people of Myanmar reject and remove the junta. This unfortunately did not happen. So the international community did not give legitimacy or did not accept it legitimacy which people are giving to the NUG. And then we basically find ourselves in a certain vacuum in which the armed resistance started. And in a moment when armed resistance started, different ethnic revolutionary organizations became very, very important factor. Because in early stages of the Spring Revolution, ethnic armed organizations have not been the critically important factor. It was the people's uprising which has been the critical factor. But with the beginning of the armed resistance, ethnic revolutionary organizations became very, very important. And then that brought us in a situation in which it stopped to be clear whether NUG is a government of everybody who is opposing junta, or NUG is one of the players among others who are opposing junta, and some of them don't have completely the same political agenda as the NUG. And that brought us in a new situation in which we are now, in which I think we have one source of the legitimacy, which is coming from not only from the elections, 2020, but is really coming from the 30 years in which NLD has been the Democratic Party of the Myanmar, the party which was always winning elections when there has been opportunity for the people to express their will. So this is one source of the legitimacy. Let's say the legitimacy coming from the people's will, which has been expressed in a couple of elections. Another source of the legitimacy is coming from the 70s years of the resistance against the junta. That is the legitimacy what the armed organizations have. And the third source of the legitimacy is coming from the Spring Revolution, from all these people and groups who take a leading roles in a Spring Revolution. So we have three sources of the legitimacy, and I think that now nobody is in a position to try to kind of claim that they have more legitimacy than the others. What we need these three sources of the legitimacy to basically constantly have agreement between themselves how they move together. Let's say in a moment when one of them try to put himself over other two, let's say we are getting the disagreement.